Abandoned by family, a soldier and his 3 children discovered an incredible 100 million secret. Mike clutched his worn-out work boots like a shield against the world. The smell of fried food filled the air at the local diner where he worked late into the night, a place where the laughter and chatter of familiar faces momentarily erased the weight of his struggles. 3 lively kids depended on him, each one a vibrant spark illuminating the darkness left behind by a painful abandonment that still echoed in his heart. Each giggle from his children was another reminder of what he fought for. He was more than a father, he was a warrior navigating through life's battleground, balancing multiple jobs to keep his family afloat. Yet beneath his steady facade lay a storm of worries, the bruises of poverty that clung to him like a heavy shroud. The whispering doubts echoed in his mind, but he pushed forward. The townsfolk admired him, they saw his resilience, but few understood the silent battles he faced. One day, while sorting through a dusty family storage unit he had long avoided, his children stumbled upon an old, moth-eaten blanket. As they pulled it away, the discovery of a weathered box sent ripples of excitement through the room. "Dad! Look what we found!" They opened the box, and Mike's heart skipped when they revealed yellowing documents. "An inheritance from a distant relative," they exclaimed. He felt a rush of hope and dread. "It's 100 million, Dad." My chest tightened. The honey-sweet promise of a better life beckoned with a siren's call. An escape from the 3 a.m. alarms, the bills that never seemed to stop piling up, and the laughter that sometimes felt too distant. But the exhilaration within his children clashed against his worry. What family secrets were hidden among these papers? Rumbling unease crept in as news spread through the town. A local business owner, grappling with his own struggles, felt the relentless gnaw of envy. Mike could feel the tensions rising. The same community that admired him in one breath began to whisper in another, casting shadows over the relationships he had built. As days went by, the world began to shift. Mike found himself caught at a crossroads. His kids dreamed of new adventures, fresh opportunities, and a chance to change their lives forever. Yet he felt tethered to his principles of honor, hard work, and familial loyalty. The alluring thought of a life free from financial stress wrestled with his internal belief. Had he not taught them the value of grit? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The pressure mounted as whispers grew louder, tensions began to fester into resentment. The community that once rallied around him was now divided. Mike felt his heart ache under the weight of expectation. There was a moment, standing outside the diner, where he could see the storm clouds brewing in the distance. The very essence of hope and turmoil collided. As Mike prepared to address the community in a meeting, the room throbbed with emotion. Would he succumb to the allure of a fortune that could change everything? Or would life's lessons hold him steadfast in his values? With his children's dreams hanging in the balance, he inhaled deeply, ready to declare his vision for their future. But the crowd shifted, voices thick with turmoil, leaving him to question what truly mattered. A fortune, or the family bonds that had fought through the storm together? The air inside the community hall was electric with anticipation. Mike stood at the front, palms sweating and heart racing. He could see familiar faces, friends turned wary, and the mix of concern and envy etched in their expressions. The murmur subsided as he took a deep breath and took the microphone in hand, feeling the weight of his children's dreams pressing against his chest. "Thank you all for being here," he began, trying to steady his voice. "I know there's a lot of talk going around, and I want to be honest with you." His gaze traveled to his kids at the back, their innocent faces filled with hope. They had their eyes wide and hands clasped in anticipation. Would this gathering bring the community together, or would it shatter the bond he thought he had built? He fought to keep the tremor out of his voice. "I'm still processing this inheritance," Mike continued, hesitating as the words caught in his throat. "This amount of money, it feels like a blessing and a curse. The crowd shifted, some nodding while others frowned. "What will you do with that money, Mike?" a voice called from the back. It was Dave, the local butcher and a friend, but also one of the ones who had voiced his jealousy in whispered conversations. Mike felt a hitch in his chest. The answer was complex. "I just want to do right by my kids," he replied, unsure if he was being vague or honest. "I want them to have what I never could, a better life." But at what cost? He glanced at the faces around him, searching for understanding. Was it too grand, too selfish to hope for a life beyond survival? "We've been through so much together, haven't we?" He remembered the laughter they shared, the potluck dinners, and the times they had rallied to help each other when life's currents got rough. "This money could make a difference, but I don't want it to split us apart." Silence enveloped the room as those present absorbed his words. He watched them, some exchanging glances, weighing the importance of their relationships against the lure of wealth. "Mike," another voice rose, softer this time. It was Clara, a single mother who understood the struggles of raising kids while battling her own demons. "We just want to know what you're planning. We're scared, you know? Change is hard." His heart ached at her vulnerability. "I get that. But this secret isn't just about money for us. It's about rediscovering what family means. I want my children to inherit something greater than wealth. I want them to inherit the spirit of our community." A ripple of quiet agreement passed through the audience. "And we can help build something, together," he added, his voice steady. "I won't let this money tear us apart. All I need is your support and, honestly, your understanding." A wave of murmurs started again, but this time they carried a different tone. There was a sense of solidarity that began to fill the space, the flicker of hope igniting in the corners where darkness had threatened to take root. As Mike concluded his speech, lifting the microphone to close, he felt a surge of determination. The community might still have its grumbles and hesitations, but perhaps, just perhaps, they could move forward united rather than divided. But then a shadow fell over the room. From the back, a stranger emerged, full of confidence and arrogance, interrupting the moment. "And what makes you think that money is really yours to keep?" His voice boomed, tossing a challenge into the fragile air. All eyes turned to this intruder as Mike's breath caught in his throat. Who was this man, and what did he mean? Suddenly, the room felt much smaller, and the stakes much higher. Unease settled heavily around him as the threat of the unknown loomed like a shadow over the fragile hopes he had just begun to rebuild. The stranger stepped forward, his presence swallowing the warmth that had been building in the room. He was tall, with sharp features and a grin that sent a chill down Mike's spine. The community buzzed with murmurs, and Mike's heart raced, thudding like a drum in his chest. The people who had once been his friends were now watching, transfixed, caught in a tight web of fear and curiosity. "Who are you?" Mike managed to ask, his voice barely above a whisper, though it felt like he was shouting. "I'm here because I have a vested interest in that inheritance you're talking about," the man replied, his tone dripping with arrogance. "Names aren't important, but let us just say I'm someone who knows a lot about your situation, Mike." An uneasy silence fell, everyone waiting for Mike's reaction. His mind raced. Would this man be an ally with helpful advice or a dangerous adversary stirring turmoil? "What do you mean, a vested interest?" "This money belongs to my children, not you," he shot back, anger bubbling beneath the surface. "Does it really?" the man countered, his eyes narrowing sharply. "That money comes with strings attached. You might not even be the rightful heir. Think carefully, Mike. Are you prepared to fight for it, or will you let it slip through your fingers like everything else?" Mike's stomach sank. The words echoed in his mind, tearing at the fabric of the hope he had just begun to weave back together. Uncertainty and doubt crept into his heart, stinging as he thought about his children's future and what he had just promised them. Clara jumped in, her voice rising in defiance. "Back off. This isn't your community, and Mike has clearly stated his intentions." The stranger chuckled, unfazed by her outburst. "Oh, Clara, sweet Clara. You don't understand. This is about more than the community. It's about survival. People will betray you for money. Your neighbors will turn against one another without blinking an eye. Mike felt the impact of those words like a blow. He glared at the stranger, fists clenching at his sides. You don't know us, he asserted, forcing his voice to be calm despite the chaos roaring inside him. We'll find a way to be better, to make this work. Together. Together? The man scoffed, looking around at the crowd. You really believe that? There's power and money involved. People will turn. It's only a matter of time. With each word, Mike felt a pulse of fear running through him, threatening to drown out the hope he wanted to cling to. Could his community really fracture like that? One glance at Clara and the other familiar faces told him they were ready to fight for this. Let me remind you, I'm not afraid to fight for what's right. My family deserves that chance, Mike declared, his voice steady, but the man's gaze was unwavering. Fight all you want, the stranger replied, but I'll be waiting in the wings. You never know when someone will turn against you. As he turned to leave, an icy chill settled in the room where warmth had just begun to blossom. The community hall fell into a heavy silence, eyes flicking between Mike and the doorway through which the man had disappeared. What do we do now? Clara broke the stillness, vulnerability creeping back into her voice. Mike drew a deep breath, his resolve strengthening. Now, we stick together. I want to let fear take root here. We must talk to each other and lay everything out in the open. What if it's not enough? Someone whispered from the crowd, and that question loomed larger than before, hanging in the air with a bitter taste, yet Mike was undeterred. The community could break apart or it could come together. It was a moment when everything changed, either they fought against the rising tide or succumbed to it. He took a step forward, determined, and knew that facing the truth, whatever it was their only option now. As he scanned the faces before him, something flickered in the depths of his gut, an awareness that this conflict was just beginning. What would it take to uncover the truth behind the inheritance? Would it unite them, or did it hold the power to destroy? Everything he cared for, the path ahead was uncertain, and the stakes felt higher than ever. With a heart full of resolve, Mike prepared himself for the fight that lay ahead, feeling the echoes of the stranger's challenge reverberate in his mind. What secrets would emerge next, and who could he trust when everything hung in the balance? The air felt heavy as Mike stood before the assembled crowd, uncertainty etching deep lines into his brow. Clara looked at him, worry dancing in her eyes, and he could see how the chill of the stranger's words had seeped into her spirit. The warmth they had shared just moments ago had been sucked away, leaving behind a cold, hard realization. This was going to be a fight for more than just money. Let us form a plan, Mike said, casting his gaze over the faces that had, until now, brought him comfort. He didn't know where to start, but he felt a surge of urgency. We'll gather information about this inheritance. We need to know everything, what it is, what it means, who might be against us. A murmur rose among the crowd, some nodding in agreement while others exchanged anxious looks. Information is power, Clara piped up, her voice steadier now. If we can figure out what he's really after, we might stand a chance. That stranger, he knows something, Mike agreed, feeling the weight of his growing responsibility. We can't let fear divide us. We need to stand united. Whatever this inheritance is, it could either be a blessing or a curse. An elderly man named Frank spoke up, his voice cracking yet resolute. My family has been here for generations. We've seen people fall apart over less. We've seen trust turn to suspicion. He paused, looking around. I don't want to see our community driven to that again. Mike felt a knot tighten in his chest. Frank was right, the risk of betrayal loomed. The stranger's words replayed in his mind like a sinister warning bell. We can't let that happen. If we trust each other and communicate openly, we can prevent this from escalating. Tentatively, people began sharing their fears and concerns. Mary, a single mother with a young son, spoke up. What if we can't protect what we've worked for? What will we do if someone from our own turns against us? Exactly, Mike replied, feeling the urgency with every word. We need to create a safe space where everyone can voice their worries. No more secrets. We can't let mistrust breed. As discussions grew, a plan began to take shape. They would form a committee to investigate the inheritance, a group of trusted members who would interrogate local records and gather any information they could find about the mysterious funds tied to Mike's family. With each new voice echoing his sentiments, Mike felt the familiarity of hope creeping back, but deep down, a darker thought clung to him. What if they uncovered secrets they weren't prepared for? What if the truth was more dangerous than the lie? Suddenly, Clara's firmness reined the room back in focus. "Let us set our first meeting for tomorrow morning," she suggested. "A show of force and unity. Anyone not committed to this community shouldn't be allowed a seat at that table." Her clear eyes surveyed the group, taking in the uncertain murmurs. "We need this. No room for doubt." With a supportive nod from Mike, the meeting was agreed upon. People started to look less frightened, rekindling a glimmer of resilience. Yet as they began to disperse, Mike spotted a shadow lurking outside the hall, a figure he recognized all too well. It was the stranger, watching from a distance, his smile an unsettling reminder of the danger that lay ahead. The stranger's presence sent a chill racing down Mike's spine. What was he planning? What strings had he already set in motion? The uncovering of the truth felt like a race against time, where every heartbeat echoed their desperation. If the stranger was right, betrayal could be just around the corner, and Mike was determined to protect his own, no matter the cost. What hidden layers of deceit waited just beneath the surface, and who among them could be trusted when the truth finally emerged? The next morning, the air was crisp and clear, a stark contrast to the turmoil simmering beneath the surface of Mike's mind. As he walked toward the community center, he couldn't shake the unease that clung to him. The meeting would either cement their resolve or splinter it further apart. When he arrived, the place buzzed with nervous energy. Faces were etched with determination, but in the back of Mike's mind lingered the shadow of the stranger. Clara greeted him at the door, her hands clasped together tightly. She offered a reassuring smile, but it didn't reach her eyes, both of them aware of the weight pressing down on them. "We'll be okay," she said softly, almost as if trying to convince herself as much as him. The room filled quickly, everyone taking their seats. Mike stood at the front, the tension thick as he addressed the crowd. "Thank you all for being here. We're facing something that could change everything for our community, and together, we'll tackle it head-on." He saw nods of agreement, but also glimpses of doubt. He cleared his throat to push through the heaviness. "We need to start by deciding who will lead the investigation. We can't let fear fester or let secrets slip through the cracks. The truth is what we need, and it's time we unearth it." As the names of potential committee members were thrown into the air, Mike's chest tightened further. Each name signified trust, yet each name also came with the risk of betrayal. He found himself glancing at Clara, who was jotting down notes, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Let us remember," Mike spoke, ensuring his voice projected confidence, "these decisions are not just about securing an inheritance. They're about safeguarding our community, our families." Frank raised his hand, his voice shaky yet firm. "And what if we discover that someone here is untrustworthy? What do we do then?" That question pierced the hopeful atmosphere like a knife. Silence blanketed the room, unease settling like fog. Mike bit his lip, pondering the answer. "We face it together. We confront whoever it is and find a way to bring them back. We don't give up on people easily." Mary, her eyes wide and vulnerable, piped up again. "But what if they're already too far gone?" The haunting possibility echoed in Mike's mind. What if unraveling this mystery tore them apart rather than bringing them together? He tried to mask his uncertainty. "We'll cross that bridge when we get there," he answered, hoping his conviction would resonate. As the meeting progressed, fears were laid bare, anxieties laid out like a tangled web. They exchanged personal stories of loyalty and betrayal, reigniting the trust that knitted their community together. Yet, each story felt tinged with a caution not present before then. Just as the session reached a more hopeful note, the door swung open. All heads turned as the stranger walked in, his presence commanding instant attention. His smile was disarming yet predatory, and Mike felt a surge of anger bubble up. Thought you might need some help, the stranger announced, his tone light but laced with menace. After all, nothing spices up a town-ass drama quite like a mystery to solve. Gasps swept through the crowd, and an uncomfortable tension resumed its grip. What do you want? Mike demanded, stepping forward, fists clenched. The stranger simply leaned casually against the doorframe, smug satisfaction playing across his features. Let us just say, I know things. Things that could help. Or hinder. Your choice. Mike's heart raced. What did he know? What secrets did he hold? The room buzzed with whispers, eyes darting back and forth. Doubt and fear began to seep back in, life unraveling into an uncomfortable silence once more. The stakes were higher than ever, and betrayal loomed closer than he had ever anticipated. With so much hanging in the balance, what would the community decide to do with the ominous offer before them? Would they allow the stranger to manipulate their fears or stand firm, united against the unsettling threat he posed? Mike's heart pounded in his chest. The stranger's presence unraveled the fragile sense of unity the community had just begun to stitch back together. He stepped closer, forcing a calm he didn't feel. What do you want from us? We're not here to play games, he challenged, the weight of his words thick in the air. The stranger leaned back, a condescending smirk tugging at his lips. Oh, Mike, this is far from a game. It's a negotiation. And I can make things so much easier for you, he replied, his voice smooth as silk, but with edges that could cut. Confusion flickered across the faces of the townsfolk. Some shifted in their seats, glancing at one another as if searching for reassurance. Clara's eyes met Mike's, a silent conversation sparking between them. Should they trust this man? What did he really know? Enough, Clara said suddenly, rising to her feet, her determination unwavering. The room quieted, and all attention turned to her. You waltz in here like you own the place, yet we don't even know who you are. Why should we believe anything you say? I'm just someone who holds the keys to a mystery that could shake this town, the stranger replied, almost gleefully, relishing in the discord he had caused. I know about the inheritance, about family secrets. Secrets that could help you protect your homes, your families. I'm offering a partnership. Think of it as a cooperation that could lead to great gains for everyone involved. Mike felt heat rise in his cheeks. Or a scheme to tear us apart. You think we haven't seen that before? His voice rose, fueled by anger and a sense of protectiveness for the community. You can choose to ignore my offer, the man shrugged. But trust me, ignoring the truth can be dangerous. The atmosphere thickened as unease spread through the crowd. Mike sensed their fear growing, the whispers encircling like a tangible force. It was becoming evident that doubt was beginning to grab hold. Listen, Frank interjected, his voice a shaky echo in the silence. We can't afford to lose sight of why we're all here. We're a community, yes, a community that could crumble with the wrong information, the stranger interjected, his tone sharp. I think we need to hear what he has to say, Mike said abruptly, though every part of him screamed that it was a mistake. If they disregarded the stranger completely, would they miss a chance to uncover the truth? Mike scanned the room again, noting the faces of friends and neighbors, people he had grown up with, shared meals with, laughed until their sides hurt. Would they be willing to risk their trust for a glimmer of hope? Clara stepped forward, crossing her arms defiantly as she held the stranger's gaze. We decide who we trust, and we won't be intimidated. If you really know something, you'll share it openly, without manipulation. The stranger tilted his head, a flicker of admiration crossing his face. You're brave, Clara. It might just be what you need in these times. But remember, secrets have a cost. Mike's pulse raced. The confrontation felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, winds whipping around them as he peered into the uncharted abyss below. Trust was the only lifeline, unpredictable and fragile. Let us hear him out, Mary said tentatively from the back, her voice quavering yet resolute. We've faced tougher situations together. Whatever he reveals, we deal with it as a unit together. The murmurs of agreement swelled, adrenaline surging through the room. As anxiety crackled in the air, a collective resolve seemed to rise in defiance of the stranger's presence. Mike took a deep breath, knowing they were on the precipice of a decision that could define them. What would they do next? Would they gamble on the unknown, or turn their backs to the shadow of fear? "All right," he said finally, his heart pounding. "Let us hear what you have to say, then." The stranger grinned, satisfaction gleaming in his eyes. "Excellent choice. Let us get started, shall we?" As the tension wrapped around the group like a tightrope, a lingering question hung in the air: how much darkness and betrayal lay ahead in the pursuit of the truth? The stranger's demeanor shifted instantly, the previously casual air replaced with a potent energy that crackled like electricity. "The truth I hold is not just about money," he began, each word spoken with careful precision. "It's about legacy. About the choices your ancestors made that echo across generations." He pulled a thick envelope from his suit jacket, placing it on the table. The sound of it hitting the surface felt like a gunshot in the tense room. "Inside this envelope are documents, names, and information that could either revive the community or doom it," he continued, his voice low and deliberate. "You decide." Mike felt the weight of everyone's gaze pressing on him. It was as if the fate of every family in that room rested on his shoulders. His palms grew clammy, rubbing against the edges of the wooden table. Clara looked at him, her expression a mix of concern and hope. He could tell she was ready to fight for whatever truth lay ahead. "What kind of legacy are we talking about?" he asked, his voice steadier than he felt. "And why should we believe you?" The stranger chuckled, a soft rasp that sent shivers down Mike's spine. "Because you all know something is off in this town. The whispers of the past have led you here. But time is running out. As I said, ignoring the truth can have dangerous consequences." Frank shifted in his chair, his brow knit with unease. "What do you mean? What happens if we refuse your offer?" "Refusal doesn't eliminate the knowledge or the impacts of those secrets," the stranger shot back, his voice lowering ominously. "You think this community is safe? Without the right alliances, you risk losing everything you cherish. Look at what's at stake: homes, stability, even lives." A sweeping gesture encompassed the entire room, as if he was marking each person's worth as collateral. A tremor raced through the gathered crowd as Mike absorbed the implications. This wasn't just about cash or land, it was about control, influence, survival. Mary's voice quivered as she replied, "What do you want from us then?" "We want to just hand over our lives to you." "Now you're thinking, Mary," he said, his grin curling. "I'm not asking for blind loyalty. What I propose is simple: you give me your trust, and I'll provide the keys to a power that's been buried too long. With that power, you could protect your families." The room waited on a knife edge, each person becoming acutely aware of their choices. They were staring at a man who thrived on manipulation but also held tantalizing possibilities. Mike glanced at Clara, her face reflected uncertainty, yet flickers of intrigue danced in her eyes. "What if this goes wrong?" Mike pressed, his heart climbing into his throat. "What if you're not telling the whole truth?" Trusting me is indeed a risk, but so is rejecting the chance for hope." The stranger leaned forward, his intensity drawing the room closer into his orbit. "Sometimes, the darkest paths lead to the most unexpected fortunes. But you can't turn away from the fate that was set in motion long before your time." Decision loomed like a storm cloud, heavy and oppressive. Mike's gut twisted as he felt the enormity of the moment. The room was alive with anticipation, a muted symphony of shifting breaths, darting eyes, and anxious whispers. "Can we really take that leap?" Clara asked quietly, her voice steady yet fragile. "Have we come this far only to be blindsided once again?" Mike swallowed hard, standing at a crossroads. He could sense the truth hidden behind the stranger's allure, a beauty veiled in darkness. The very foundation of their lives could be shaken by whatever he revealed next. As the stranger offered no response, the weight of his silence grew heavier. "Do we dare take the plunge into this mystery?" Mike finally wondered aloud, scanning the faces around him, searching for a glimmer of unison. In that moment, a sense of urgency crackled in the air. The atmosphere felt thicker, almost suffocating. What if their next move could alter the course of their very existence? What if they were already too late? For the first time since this man's arrival, uncertainty gnawed at Mike's core more disquieting than any prior worry they had faced together. The stranger's gaze flicked to each person in the room, waiting, almost savoring their internal struggle. "The clock is ticking," he said finally, breaking the silence. "What will it be?" Micro-expressions surfaced as the crowd held their breath, each person teetering on the edge of a monumental choice. Would they seize the opportunity for knowledge, or retreat back into ignorance? And just as Mike prepared to answer, the doors burst open, and a figure stepped in, breathless and wild-eyed. The new arrival carried a message that could change everything or worse. "Mike. You need to hear this." The community was on the brink of change, but answers brought questions, and hope wore a mask of uncertainty. The room froze. The newcomer's presence cut through the tension like a knife. Everyone turned towards the entrance, faces morphing from confusion to worry. It was Jason, the youngest of the town's counselors, known for his impulsive nature and wild ideas. "Jason? What's going on?" Mike's voice trembled, his mind racing with the threats posed by the stranger and this unexpected emotional lift. Jason's chest heaved as he stepped further into the room, sweat glistening on his forehead. "You won't believe what I just found. It involves that old abandoned warehouse down by the docks." Mike's heart plummeted. The warehouse had been untouched for years, a relic of a time when the town flourished. Now it stood as a symbol of decay and lost potential. "What about it?" "There's a stash of crates inside. I thought it was just junk, but then it looked different. I pried one open. There are documents. Blueprints," and he paused, catching his breath. "Cash. A lot of cash, Mike." The stranger's lips curled into a knowing smile, and Mike's gut twisted. Could this be the power that man had hinted at? Or was this just more trouble waiting to happen? "What do you mean cash? How much?" Clara jumped in, her voice rising, hope flickering in her eyes. "Enough to rebuild town, even fund projects we've been dreaming about for years." Jason took a step closer, urgency in his tone. "But that's not all. There are names on these papers, business partnerships, contracts, connections to people you wouldn't expect." A ripple of disbelief and apprehension coursed through the crowd. Mike felt the gravity of the moment. Was this connected to what the stranger had just shown? Could it be a chance to turn their circumstances around, or a trap waiting to ensnare them all? "Show us," Frank demanded, rising from his seat. "If this is true, we can't waste any more time." The stranger leaned back, observing with keen interest, his expression unreadable. It was as if he had orchestrated this entire encounter, guiding them towards something monumental and darkly twisted. Mike's mind buzzed with the possibilities. But doubt knotted in his stomach. "Wait, what was that you said earlier about alliances? If the information Jason found links back to the conflicts this man has hinted at, how can we trust anything?" "Perhaps you should consider that the greatest risks often bear the most significant rewards," the stranger interjected smoothly, his voice dripping with persuasion. "Wouldn't you rather have the knowledge now than be blindsided later?" "I don't like this," Clara said, her voice cutting through the tension. "What if this is a setup? Why are you still here? What's your game?" The stranger shrugged, a casual dismissal that made Mike's skin crawl. "I'm not here to dictate how you choose to wield the truth, merely offering you the tools to protect your community. But remember, the past is a powerful beast, and it doesn't let go easily." Mike took a deep breath, his heart racing. The hope radiating off Jason was infectious. But with that hope came an unsettling dread. They had nothing but shadowy truths and half-naked secrets. Was this the moment they fought back? "Let us go to the warehouse," Mike decided, the words tumbling out of his mouth in a rush. He glanced at Clara, whose worried expression urged him to reconsider. But Jason was right, they had to investigate. "We either take control now or risk losing everything." As they began to move towards the door, the stranger stood up, his voice dropping to a low, conspiratorial tone. Remember this, truth always has a price, and sometimes it's more than you bargained for. The group hesitated for a moment, each feeling the weight of the stranger's ominous words. Then, with a shared look of resolve, they stepped out into the unknown, the promise of treasure thrumming in their veins. What awaited them at that warehouse could either be their salvation or their undoing. Would they be ready to face what lay buried beneath the dust and cobwebs? As they neared the warehouse, a sharp creak echoed from within, and a shiver raced down Mike's spine. "Let us hope for the best," he muttered under his breath, already bracing himself for what was to come. But as they crossed the threshold, a sense of dread settled in the pit of his stomach. What secrets lay hidden in the shadows, just waiting for them to uncover? The heavy door creaked as Mike pushed it open, revealing the dark interior of the warehouse. His heart raced. Dust motes hung in the air, illuminated by slivers of moonlight seeping through the cracks. The place was a graveyard of forgotten dreams. The smell of mildew filled his nostrils, reminding him of childhood fishing trips when they would come here, hopeful. "Someone grab a flashlight," Mike instructed, his voice echoing strangely as it bounced off the metal walls. Frank hurried ahead, retrieving his phone and switching on the flashlight app. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing stacks of beaten crates piled haphazardly in the corners, remnants of the past scattered like broken promises. Jason stepped inside, eyes wide with excitement. "This way. I think I saw a light back there," he shouted, rushing deeper into the warehouse. Clara hesitated, casting uncertain glances at the group. "Wait, we should stick together," she cautioned, her voice laced with worry. But the allure of discovery propelled Jason forward, and despite Clara's protests, Mike found himself following. The promise of a better future tugged at him, battling against the fears constricting his chest. They navigated past a wall of crates each labeled with faded lettering that hinted at long-lost goods. As they moved, Mike found himself lost in memories from a simpler time, when the town hummed with life and laughter. His heart ached. Suddenly, they reached the back of the warehouse, where a dim light flickered. Jason was already kneeling, inspecting a crate that looked slightly out of place. "Look at this one," he exclaimed, excitement bubbling in his voice. Mike dropped to his knees beside him, Clara peering over his shoulder. The crate opened surprisingly easily, and inside lay a tangled mass of documents and old tools. But it was the sight of the money bundles of cash bound in rubber bands that nearly knocked the wind out of him. "Sweet heaven," Frank breathed, squinting at the sight. "This is real?" Jason hurriedly pulled out the documents scattered amidst the cash. "Look. These names, they're the key players in the community, developers, contractors, even some politicians." Mike felt an electric shock of realization pulse through him. This wasn't just cash, this was leverage. The town's fate teetered on the edge of this discovery. Yet, alongside the exhilaration was a creeping dread. "What's the catch?" he whispered, unable to shake the feeling that they were not alone. The flickering light continued to dance as Mike's gut twisted tighter. Frank scanned the dimly lit corners, his expression hardening. "We need to get out of here before someone shows up." "Wait," Jason interjected, rifling through the documents. "We can't just walk away with this. We need a plan. We could finally get the town back on its feet." "And what happens if this all belongs to someone else?" Clara's voice was shaky, filled with doubt. "What then?" "We're thieves in their eyes." Mike's mind raced. This was a risk. A primal fear tugged at him, igniting a blend of excitement and foreboding. The future hung in the balance. The stranger's ominous words echoed in his mind, "Truth always has a price." Suddenly, a noise echoed from the entrance. A shadow moved. The group stopped, their breath hitching collectively. Mike's heart pounded in his chest, the thrill of discovery overshadowed by the weight of uncertainty. "Stay quiet," he urged, holding a finger to his lips. The flashlight beam trembled in Frank's hand as they all turned toward the dark door, curiosity and fear colliding within them. Who was there? They'd come for answers, yet the looming presence of potential danger filled the room. What would they do if the past was ready to reclaim what had been lost, As the shadow shifted again, Mike held his breath. They had to decide fast. Would they confront whatever was coming, or slip away with their bitter treasure? That question hung in the air, heavy with implications echoing the risk that awaited them all. The figure stepped into the dim light, revealing itself as none other than the stranger. The tension snapped in the air like a taut wire, and Mike's heart sank. The stranger swept forward, hands raised in feigned innocence, but his smile was all sharp angles and hidden threats. "Looking for something, are we?" he asked, his voice smooth yet dripping with malice. Mike stood spread-eagled between the crumpled cash and dangerous tension. "What do you want?" he challenged, trying to muster courage, yet dread twisted in his gut. The stranger chuckled softly, his eyes darting between Mike and the scattered bundles. "What I want is already here, Mike. You're sitting on the key to everything: power, influence. It could be yours, but you're not getting any of it," Clara interrupted, stepping forward defensively, embodying the fierce spirit of their community. "We won't let you manipulate us." "Well, that's a shame, really," the stranger replied, a mock pout on his lips. "You all want to play the hero, but let us be blunt, you need clean hands for a dirty game." Mike felt a rush of anger. This man was trying to intimidate them into submission, playing on their worst fears. "You think you can scare us?" Mike snapped, voice rising. "We've faced worse than your threats. This is our town, our future at stake." The stranger's brow arched in amusement. "You really think you're ready for what lies ahead? You have no idea how deep the rabbit hole goes." Anger mixed with fear within Mike, every word he uttered felt like a wager. "What do you know?" he demanded. "Tell us why we should even listen to you." "Because trust is a powerful currency, and yours is running low, Mike." The stranger tilted his head, relishing the tension. "As soon as these documents see the light of day, there will be people coming for more than cash. They want to sweep the truth back into shadows, and I can help you navigate that chaos." A heavy silence hung in the air. Clara's clenched hands shook at her sides, her expression a blend of defiance and fear. "You want to help us," she challenged, "or tear us apart?" The stranger stepped closer, the air thickening with his presence. "Now, that's the million-dollar question. My offer stands. I know the darker corners of this town. I can protect what you've found, but you must understand that with truth comes sacrifice." Hell-bent on retrieving their dignity, Mike found his voice. "No more lies, no more manipulation. We want to do this right, as a community." The stranger's eyes glinted with mischief. "Ah, the idealist. Just remember, Mike, the truth is often a double-edged sword." He turned to leave but paused at the doorway. "I'll be waiting," he said with a smirk, vanishing into the darkness. A wave of relief flooded over the group, but it was eclipsed with uncertainty. Mike turned to face the others, faces pale and shaken. "We can't go back," he stated firmly, "we've uncovered something significant. This is our chance to take control of our lives and redefine what this community stands for." Clara recalled how far they'd come, from the whispers of doubt to this pivotal moment. "Well then, what's our next move?" With newfound determination, Mike laid out their plan. "We'll secure the money and every document we found. Then, we'll form a team to investigate these contracts and decide together how to proceed." Just as the air began to shift from dread to hope, Frank's voice chimed in, "And we keep each other accountable. If secrets form this rift, we cannot afford to fracture further. Openness must be our foundation." A collective resolve solidified among the group, a sparking ember reigniting the warmth of community. They gathered the documents and cash, carefully sealing them to begin their investigation. As they stepped outside into the cool night air, solidarity wrapped around them like a thick blanket. Mike felt the weight of the inheritance lift ever so slightly. He was no longer alone in this battle. They were united, ready to face whatever came next together. "Yes, it's a new dawn for our town," Mike smiled softly, feeling the strength of his children's laughter echo in the distance, reminding him not just of the fight ahead but of the futures they dreamed of. Let us do this, Clara declared as the group headed back towards the heart of their community, ready to dismantle the shadows and embrace the light. With an unwavering sense of purpose and family bonds forged in fire, they stepped onto a path that was theirs to shape, vowing never to be led astray again. Together, they would protect the legacy that was theirs to keep, determined to nurture it for generations to come. You need to subscribe now to catch every step of this powerful journey and witness their transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm magic that helps these stories reach more ears. Don't wait not even one more second to share this with at least 5 friends who need to feel this hope and strength as they also seek their truth. Your engagement means the world.